Hi, I'm Michael Lang with Nextlevel Academy. Welcome to our video series on Git. Today we're going to build on the concepts that we've done in our prior videos, and we're going to talk about Git Flow. This is a process that you can follow in a big team environment to make managing your work a lot easier. Okay. So if you haven't seen our previous videos on merging or repositories or branching, commits, check those out. I'll put those in the bubble at the top of the screen here. So click on that and go to those prior videos if you're not familiar with those concepts yet. This video is going to build on top of that concept. All right, so when we have a GitHub project, you're always going to start with a master branch. The master branch is what comes with your repository. Okay, and we've got a diagram up here. We're going to show our branches and our commits horizontally. In our other video, we showed it vertically like a tree. It's the same thing, just rotated. So it's a timeline that's horizontal. All right, so up here we've got the word master. We've got a line. So each one of these lines in this diagram is going to be a branch. Okay, so we've got a develop branch. We've got a feature Y branch, a feature X branch, a feature Z branch, release branch, a single hotfix branch here. That's a bug happening in production. Now these diagonal lines that come up here that are dotted, these are merges or branches. The creation of a branch or the merging of a branch back into another one. All right, so that's just the high level. All right, so let's talk about why you would have all these different branches next. So master, you're going to come with that one. Develop is kind of like where you're going to do most of your development work based from. Whereas master, a lot of people use that as what is their code that's deployed to production. So production is what is deployed out that your users are going to look at. So your running site, like nextlevelacademy.com is out there. There's a production branch for that repository of that code base, and it is on the master branch. When I'm doing some development work to try to add some new features or new courses or new features to Courseware, I have a development branch that manages my day-to-day work on building new features. Now, I might also run across a case where there's a production issue and like, oh, that thing is not working. People aren't able to sign up or they're not able to do some critical piece of functionality. I can't really just, in the middle of my development work of building a courseware feature, just do a bug fix and push it out because that feature I'm working on probably isn't ready to go out and be deployed to the website. So I need a way to manage that so I can say, oh, I need to work from the code that's deployed on the website and just change that code and not worry about the feature that I'm in the middle of working on that's not done yet. Okay, so let's talk about this diagram and how this illustrates that whole workflow, and so how you can determine when you create a branch, what those branches are for, and when you bring those branches back and merge them into other branches. All right, so I said we got the master branch. This timeline is not necessarily at the start of the whole repository. This is just showing a slice of time called like a sprint. So a lot of times people follow the agile process. It's highly encouraged you do that if you're on a team project. It's just a way to say, here's 2 weeks worth of work. We're going to call that a sprint. Okay, and you're going to do a couple features and something, and at the end of that, you're going to try to make a release and push it out there. So this diagram is just showing one sprint. There's probably some stuff up here before that, because at some point we started with a master branch only, and there was no development branch. Sometimes people call this branch dev, sometimes develop, sometimes development. It's just how verbose you want to be. It doesn't matter what you call the branch. I'm going to call it dev or development for this video. So at some point in the past year, development was branched off of master. Okay, so we're just looking at a point in time after that's happened. So we've only got 2 branches at the start of this diagram, and by the end we've got more branches. Okay, so we got master and development, and then we've got a version out here, v0.0, I suppose at this point, before this next bubble comes up here. Each of these blue bubbles on this one are different releases of our application that we're going to put out on the web. So we got v0.1, v0.1.1. This one was a bug fix. v0.2, v0.3. Doesn't matter what version scheme you do. You can do version 1, 2, 3, 4, or use 0.1, 0.2. It really depends on how you want to, what versioning scheme you want to follow. So take a look at something called semantic versioning for understanding what those version numbers mean. All right, so I've got a production branch out there, I've got a development branch, and this is where I do all the work of building new features. And when those features are ready, I merge them up to master and I deploy that new version of the application out to production. So on this development branch, we've got some commits along this line. Every dot, every circle on this diagram is a commit on that particular branch. So here we've got a commit that just represents the start of the last time the last sprint ended, and this was the final thing. Like at the end here, all the release was put together to make a new commit on the development branch. That's just the end of the prior one. Okay, so we've got one at the start here. And here you notice there's some feature branches. All three of these start with the word feature. These are developers working on stories or work items or whatever you want to call it in your work management system. So it's like I have a unit of work to do. If you're in the Agile process, a lot of times you call those stories. I've got a story to add a registration page, or I have a story to add a login page, or I've got a story to add a course page where people can look at a course. Okay, so those are different features that you might add, and each one of those you would do in a branch. All right, so at the beginning of this development branch, there is a dotted line coming down to this new branch called feature Y. Okay, so maybe I'm creating feature Y in this imaginary application here. So I branch off of development when I do this, not off of master. Master is what's in production. There might be other development stuff in here that has not made it to production yet. So I want to make sure when I'm building my new feature, I'm building it off other features that are also currently in development. So we have feature Y here, and I'm doing commits over time. So maybe I'm doing a commit every day just so I don't lose my work. And I don't have to worry about other people working on features seeing my work that's in progress and incomplete because it's on my own branch. But right after I create my feature, another developer on the team says, oh, I'm going to start feature X. And so they create a commit and they branch off of that commit and they name their branch feature X and they do some work over time. Okay, so we got two developers in the team at this point, both working on two different features. Now we've got a third person who's building maybe a release from whatever was done back here in the prior sprint. Okay, so something was done back here before the diagram, and we're like, okay, let's make a release that includes that set of features. So a third person, maybe you might call it a DevOps person, or someone who's just in charge of deployments. It could just be one of the other developers on the team. It really doesn't matter. There's a lot of ways to organize a team. But someone is taking the responsibility of building the release from that prior sprint. So they also create a branch off the same point that I created feature Y from. And in that release process, they might have found, oh, there's a bug I have to fix, or oh, I need to update the release notes page to say we added this new feature, just to give people some feedback. So it's not really part of building a feature, but as part of getting ready to deploy to production, there might be some things I need to update. Maybe you want to update a version number in the footer, and so that's like a really small change, and they might just do that on the release branch. So they might have done a couple things here. This could take 5 minutes to do all three of these commits, or it could take a day or two, because maybe they're testing the features from the prior sprint. It depends on where you do your testing in your workflow. That's kind of outside of Git Flow. You generally want to test your features before you even merge them into development branch. So presumably all the features from the prior sprint were already tested, at least by that one developer and the other developer that reviewed their work and merged it in. And we'll come back to that in a minute. So this developer has created the release branch from the prior sprint stuff. They made a couple small changes. Maybe they found a bug and they fixed that too. Now when they're done, they're going to merge that into master because they're saying this is now ready for prime time. It's ready for end users to hit our application and use it. So they're going to merge that code into master. Now from that point, you could have CI, CD set up, continuous integration as CI. And that is such that as the branch, it might monitor a branch, and when that branch is updated, it might automatically deploy your code to your production site. That's awesome. If you don't have that set up, you could just do a manual. You switch over to the master branch after it's got the latest merge into it, and you do your whatever you do to publish your code to get it out to the internet, so that people can use your new version of your application. Okay, so they did a release. They merged it to master. They tagged that release with version 0.1, and that's just saying, here's a commit in our repository that represents what we released with version 0.1. So if we ever wanted to go back and say, well, what was in version 0.1, we can go back to that tag commit and say, oh, well, it's all the code at that tag. So tagging is an optional thing to do. It's highly encouraged if you're doing a really big workflow with a larger team. So that release was done, but also when the release was done, they did some critical changes here that we're going to want in all of our feature branches when we're testing also. So when they were done with that, when they merged it to master, they also merged it back down to development because we've got a couple commits here, some changes. So that's why we got another bubble down here and the line drawn from the end of this branch down into another one. So if it's a line going up into the first bubble of a branch line, that's just the creation of the branch. If it's anywhere else along the bubbles and into another branch, that's merging from one branch into the other. So we've got a creation of a branch, creation of a branch, creation of a branch. This is a merge, that's a merge, 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 merge. All those lines not at the start are merges. Okay, so our second developer that created feature X, they're like, oh, I really need feature 0.1, the fixes that were made here, I need those in my feature branch. So they decided to merge it in before they're even done building their feature. So that's why we have the line down here, and then they still did more work after that. Okay, so feature X has another commit at the end. Now when feature X was done, developer 2, he finished his work before I finished my work, because maybe it's a small feature, maybe mine's really big, or maybe they're just a faster developer. That's possible too. So they finished their feature. They had another team member review their work. That's an important part of Git Flow in general. You should never finish a feature and then deploy that feature out to the next branch or merge it into the next branch just with your eyes only seeing it before everyone else has to deal with any issues that you caused. So you should always have a peer on your team look at your code on your branch, try it out, run all the automated tests, all the manual tests, and make sure, does this thing still work? Did it break anything else? And let them merge it back into the other branch. That's the better team way to do it. You can get by with merging your own branches back into development in a smaller team where you might not have as many things to coordinate. That's possible. It is allowed in Git Flow. This is not like a law here. This is a set of guidelines to make better development. So it is a better guideline to have another developer in your team merge it up to the development branch. And this is not production anyway. So if the second person working on it, still didn't find a bug that was there, okay, well, it's only a development branch. It's not on your production site. It's not a big deal. It will get caught eventually. So, but the sooner you find it, the better. That's why you want the second person to review your code. Okay, so meanwhile, I'm still working on my feature Y, and the second developer says, well, I need something else to do. They're going to pull another story from the backlog of work to do, and they're going to start another branch. So they finished that one, it was merged up, and they said, okay, well, I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to do this other feature. So they're going to build off of the completion of their feature X that's now in development, and they're going to build a new feature Z branch that has all that prior feature code, but still doesn't have mine in it because I'm not done. I still have a lot of stuff to do here, and if they pulled my code in, they're going to have a lot of stuff that doesn't build or work right. So they're only coming off the development branch. It does not include any of my work on feature Y. Now, before we did that, though, it just so happens that the release for 0.1 was already done, and oh no, they found a bug in production. Users ran into a case where something wasn't working. You know, the login button maybe wasn't working. Oh no, we got to fix that immediately. We need people to be able to log into our stuff. So immediately another developer, maybe the one that did the release, possibly, maybe another person, when they found that bug, they created a new branch off of the master branch, off of that release tag. That's why we want to tag our releases. So we could say, oh, I need to make a tag. I need to make a branch off of the tag of the latest release that's in production. So I'm going to branch off of that tag. So they can do that. They fix their bug. Hopefully they get it done really fast because this is something stopping people from logging into our website, right? So they're going to fix some stuff. Somebody's going to test it, make sure it all works out. And then another developer is going to test it also. And that other developer is going to merge it into production, into the master branch, which gets deployed to production. So that hopefully is a really quick cycle. And you can have as many of those across your timeline as possible. We're just only showing one here just to kind of keep the diagram as simple as possible. So, but when that is done, when that production fix is done, the production site's fixed, goodness, thank goodness. We also want to get that under development branch because we don't want to do another release later that has the same bug. We want that bug fix to also come down to our development branch. So that's why there's a merge line here from the end of this hotfix branch into the development branch. So any new work started from here on will also get that bug fix. And we can also merge this development branch into other feature branches, which, as you can see, the feature I'm working on, feature Y, when I'm done, I'm like, oh yeah, I need that bug fix too. So, and maybe I don't even know what the bug fix is. I just know that when I'm done, I need anything that was put into development, I need that stuff too, and make sure my stuff works with that. We'll come back to that. Okay, so this bug fix was done. Meanwhile, feature X was done before, right? So maybe they're ready to do another release because we added a new feature. Let's let users start using this stuff. So developer 2 started feature Z, but then the build person who finished doing the last release and finished the bug fix says, you know what, let's make a new release on that version. So they also make a release branch off of this commit that developer 2 created a feature off of. And they start the process of testing and debugging and making sure everything works with version 0.2. And when it's done, they merge that up to master, and then they end up deploying it. So now that feature X is now in production at this point. So it did take a little bit of time. It goes through a process. That process is important to make sure that you don't introduce bugs into your production environment. You just introduce new features, new features, new features. Users want new stuff. They don't want you to break their stuff. They're trying to use some features. You put a bug fix a bug out there. Now they can't do their work. Now they're going to leave your platform and go to some other application. So you want to make sure you take your time in that release process to make sure you don't introduce bugs. And if you do, you fix them really fast. So developer 2 is working. I'm still working on my feature Y. Developer 2 is working. The release person's building release 2. They get it out there, and whatever little fix they did here, maybe it was just adding release notes or something. They merge that into development. And so it happens when they finish making 0.2 to push it up, I'm also done with my feature, finally. Okay, so I merge that development branch into my branch because I'm done with my work. When you're done doing your work and you've done some stuff, and other people have done stuff meanwhile, you know that you probably have something to pull into your branch. And you should always at least check this if you're not 100% sure. So you could switch over to this development branch, pull the latest, so you got the latest development branch, then switch back to your branch. Okay, you can check our full courseware on how to do merging and branching and then switching between branches. Check out that courseware how to do that. We got another video that I can point out for that. So I'm done with my feature. I merged development into it. Now I can hand it off to my other developer. Say, okay, can you take a look at this feature Y I built? Is it good? Does it work? Does it pass all of the tests? And they can check that out. They can compare the two branches and say, well, what all did you change, Mike? And you can see all the individual changes. The Git difference tool is really good at that. It'll say, here's the lines of code that were changed and which files. They can look at those exact things and just spot, are there any code smells? Is there anything that they did that was just a bad development practice? And they're going to try to run the site. Does it run? Do all the main features work? Do the automated tests still run? Because hopefully you're doing unit testing. Those are automated tests. And they're just going to run through and make sure everything's good, everything looks good, everything passes your linting rules, maybe linting or style rules that are automated checks in your code, and that all the tests pass. When that's all good, they're going to merge that into the development branch, and only my changes get merged up here. But those changes from development are already in my branch, so this change here isn't much of a difference. Because all that code from up here is in my branch before I merge it up. So it's going to include everything that was here and my branch feature into that development branch. Just so happens the developer 2 was really fast. They finished 2 features in the time I did 1. You know, those were easier features, or I'm a slower developer or something. So they finished their stuff. They also merged it up. Now in this case, we don't show another line coming down because they were probably working on different files that had nothing to do with the files I was working on. So you can do those 2 merges without merging another line down. It's okay. When you do this merge, if there was a conflict, say like these 2 changed one of the same files, this merge operation will tell you, oh, there's a conflict you need to resolve. So, and then you would back out and you'd want to merge that branch down, do all the checks here before you merge up. Okay. And you can see that's being done in this one. So that process is being shown here. Okay, so these 2 features are done. They're going to do another release, 0.3. off of that, and they're going to do the release notes. They're going to merge back down. Maybe someone did another bit of work here in development directly, meanwhile also, and then they're going to do another release to production, same way as the other steps. So that's a huge process with Git Flow. This is showing like a larger team worth of development. If it's just one or two people doing Git Flow, this diagram is a lot simpler, but it still has a lot of the same concepts. So if you can get used to the concepts and then you check out our other videos on how to do merging and branching, commits, pushes and pulls, all of this stuff will start to fit together. Okay. We also have some courseware at nextlevelacademy.com/courseware. We have a full Git course in there that has all these videos on this series merged into there, and they've got a lot of written write-ups, pictures, homework assignments, and stuff to help you solidify your knowledge on Git. So I would check those out. I'll put them down in the show notes at the bottom. If you don't mind, comment down below, subscribe, and check out the future videos.